welcome back. We spend an hour with Jérald Selendi once a month, which is always fascinating, enlightening, illuminating, educational, and gives us all a better handle on the perspective we're trying to come up with. And I'll tell you, it has never been more difficult. I'm not putting anybody down. I'm telling you from my perspective, it's very, very challenging to try to track all of this and almost in an intuitive way try to understand motivations. But what I can tell you that is pretty clear to me, and I'll be anxious to see what Jérald has to say about this, is that the man, the statesman, Vladimir Putin, who is, in my opinion, man of the year, maybe man of the decade before this is all over. Obama is such a creep, and the career criminal syndicate in D.C. is so evil, maybe the most evil on the planet. I don't know. I haven't looked at all of them, but it's got to be right up there. Vladimir Putin literally has changed the balance of power in the world. And nothing speaks more eloquently of such a dynamic move than what he has accomplished in Syria in just the last week. Within the past week, he sent in the Russian Air Force. He has sent in Spetsnaz, their special forces, and with the Syrian army, which has to be one of the most heroic armies literally on the planet now to have stood up and gotten through so far of what they have been given as a challenge. They are kicking ass in Syria, to use a vernacular expression. The ISIS, ISIL, whatever you want to call them, subhuman killers are on the run. Quite literally, we've had several reports, I've posted them, of them being on the RUN. They're running for their lives. The targeting has been extraordinary. Now, before we get to Jérald, what does the targeting success of the Russian Air Force tell you about the non-targeting success of the American, quote, coalition Air Force in the past year since they began bombing in Syria? It ought to tell you quite clearly that the Americans have not had as their highest priority ISIS targets. They've missed, they've dropped supplies, food, medical, ammunition behind ISIS lines. Whoops, are we that incompetent? Do you buy that? No, not a chance. And in the meantime, who has been sending medics, doctors, surgeons, nurses, health personnel to treat these ISIS fighters, both within and without their country? Israel. How many attacks on Israel have you heard of from ISIS? How about zero? How many refugees have you seen Israel inundated with? How about zero? Does it give you a hint as to who the players in this game are? It's pretty ugly. And I don't know if Jérald even wanted to talk about this, but I wanted to put it on the table because it's painfully obvious that we have been covering up and hiding and protecting Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and the so-called moderate terrorists in Syria. And it's not only embarrassing, it's damned evil, but as evil as it gets. Jérald, welcome back to the program. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you. I was on Russia Today just following the announcement and the first flights that went in from Russia into Syria. And it's there for anyone to watch. And what I said as this was beginning, I said what happened was that Putin, first of all, you said you would vote Putin, or words to the effect, the man of the year.
Man of the year. I think I think international geopolitical diplomacy, I don't see anybody in that league, frankly.
How about just man? Because the rest of these guys are boys. Let's go up and down the list.
Go ahead.
We could go with Clinton, Billy, Slick Willie, not a man.
No.
We could go with little Georgie Bush.
These
hardly
are punks.
A man.
They're punks. They're juvenile punks.
We could go with arrogant BS Obama.
Yeah.
A man that has lied about everything that he's doing. And just to digress a bit, Hillary Clinton's playing the same line as Obama. She's playing the progressive card now, coming out against the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which she supported.
Gerald, I'll tell you something about that in a minute. Go ahead. Hold that.
So she's playing the card. We have to get tough on Wall Street. So going back to the Man of the Year, she's playing the progressive card like Obama did and lied on everything. Yeah. We could go overseas. We could go to that little boy Hollande over in France. We could go another little guy, that Cameron over there in the UK.
Oh, the pig's head lover.
That's the guy. And then we could go to little Fonzie over there in Italy, Rense. There's not a man among them.
There's not.
I'm saying.
You're right.
There's not a man among them. These are arrogant little boys with bad attitudes.
Right.
So going back to the Syrian crisis, so I was on just as this was happening. And what I said was that people are forgetting that Obama and Putin met for 90 minutes. And by the way, I was also in New York City. I was invited to a reception where Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russia, spoke. So I was there on that Monday.
Sergei Lavrov, you got to hear him speak?
Yeah, I got to hear him speak and talk to him briefly as well.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that this happened just as this was unfolding. I saw what was going on, and I sensed it. If you go back to the media leading up to the meeting between Putin and Obama when they were in New York at the 70th anniversary of the United Nations, the media in the United States played it down that Putin was begging for this meeting. It was childish reporting. So they had the meeting, 90 minutes, and the next day, 2 days later, bombs away over Syria. So here's the way I saw it unfolding, and this is what I've been saying. You have not heard a lot coming out of Germany, Italy, Spain, a number of nations in Europe criticizing Russia for what they're doing.
No, they're all panty waists, all of them. They won't say anything.
No, what they're doing is they're not saying anything because Russia is stopping the refugee crisis out of Syria. That's why they're supporting this.
I see.
Number two is that you mentioned about the successes that Russia's had so far. Russia was invited by Assad. They had an election in June of 2014 in Syria. There were 30 international observers there from different 30 countries. The elections, according to what was reported by the 30 nations that were there, were above board and legit. He won by over 80%. So when Obama comes out and says that the majority of people want Assad out, he's lying, according to what, but he always does.
Always.
So he's lying according to what the reports are. So now what happened is, this is very important, that Russia was invited by a sovereign nation. The United States, France, Australia, and other nations, Turkey, that are bombs away over Syria, are in violation of international law.
Correct.
They have not given it's not even the United Nations Security Council has given them the okay. So the United States is now telling Russia what they have to do when Russia was invited in.
Yep.
Why is Russia more successful? Number one, if anybody could count with putting both hands up and counting to 10, show me any successes that the American military has had since the war on terror began. Matter of fact, we could go back to Vietnam War, and we could fast forward up until now. There's not one victory to show.
15 years of the war on terror, nothing.
Nothing. Not one victory. They disgrace in Afghanistan. We just saw what happened with that hospital that they bombed. A losing war in Iraq.
The destruction of Iraq. The leveling of an entire nation state.
The murder of 1 million people plus.
Minimum.
The destruction of Libya and creating the conditions for this madness, what they call Islamic fundamentalists, as they destroyed the country. So now, going back to why is Russia successful, and as it appears now, the reason being is that they are working with the Syrian government. This is a country the size roughly of Missouri. It ain't that big. So now you have all the people there that know every little area, or to use the phrase, nook and cranny.
Nowhere to hide. Yeah.
Exactly. So they're giving the Russians the instructions on what to do, where to do it, and who to hit. Where the United States has been an ally of the other great murderers, the Saudis, who have started this war against the Alawite government. It's the Sunnis against the Shia, and of course the Wahhabis, this radical sect in Saudi Arabia that has already beheaded over 175 people this year. And now they're getting into crucifixions. They're the ones that started that. So the United States is working, and you use the term, and everybody, and I'm not criticizing you for it. It's the term that everyone throws out. Moderate rebels. The United States. Who are these rebels?
Totally
could somebody show me a face?
No, it's all BS. They're not moderate.
I know. Could somebody show me a face of these people? Who are they?
And who is the Free Syrian Army? Same thing. They don't exist.
The same people that overthrew the Gaddafi government. And remember what happened there. One of the reasons refugees are flooding into Europe, when Gaddafi was in power, I think we discussed the last time we were on the show, he cut a deal with Berlusconi, and they weren't letting anybody going out of Libya for whether it was coming out of Africa or anywhere else
100%
going into
Europe. Yep.
So now they're talking about these traitors. I want to make this very clear. And all you NSA people listening out there, if there's a man or woman among you, the leaders of this nation are traitors to what this country was founded upon. Because nobody has the right to say who should go and who should stay in another country. So here we had Obama say Assad has to go, Gaddafi has to go. They got rid of Gaddafi and destroyed the richest country in Africa, one of the most stable countries in Africa, and have created this hell on earth. Now, to go back, I keep hearing the traitors in both parties saying Assad has to go. Okay, great. Who are you going to replace him with? The same people that you replaced Gaddafi with?
Another neocon dupe, for God's sake.
But what I'm saying is, who? They never even say the who.
No, they don't. They didn't go that far. You're 100% on. You're spot on with everything. Yep, absolutely. This is a story that is so shameful it defies description. What this country
here was
has
my
become.
analysis on Russia today. There's going to be a Syrian solution. I believe this is going to be out of the news in several months, if not less. I believe that there's going to be a quieting down of the so-called rebels in Syria. There's going to be a stabilization. And what the United States is doing now with all of this propaganda coming out, it's merely face-saving to cover up their grotesque failure. And everybody knows the $500 million to train 5 men, and they gave away all their equipment, and on and on and on. This is I'm telling you, Jeff.
You're right. You're totally right.
This is a face-saving effort by the United States to denigrate everything that Russia is doing in order to cover up their grotesque failure. And here's the final thought on this for me, and you could go on after this. The Department of Defense and the Pentagon, I know people like guys in uniforms with a lot of medals and talk tough and carry guns. They are no different than every other failed government bureaucracy. They are as big of failures as the FDA, the USDA, the EPA, the OSHA, DOD,
Department of Education,
right up there. These are all losers. I know you people like the generals with all of that stuff on their chest, and you like to salute. You're saluting losers. They have a track record of nothing but failure. If anyone could show me the successes, I would be glad to have a discussion with them.
I would not only agree, I would take it further. They're not just losers, they're genocidal killers, is what they are.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We have slaughtered... Go ahead.
Yep. No, I agree.
We've slaughtered in Iraq, which was the most westernized, enlightened country, like Saddam Hussein or not. The facts are the facts. They were doing pioneering open heart surgery there, all kinds of things. We've killed 2 to 3 million there. We've killed 2 to 3 million in Afghanistan. The statistics are grotesque. And look what happened in Libya to Muammar Gaddafi. More revenue from the natural resources of that nation went back to the people than any other country on the planet that I've been able to find. He took care of his people. It was all a CIA, mainstream media, manipulative lie about what an evil man he was. It's a typical thing, Hitler of the month. Same with Saddam Hussein. It's got to stop. And I think that all credit should be given to Bashar al-Assad, his heroic army, and the people of Syria who have fought and died and stood by their government and their right to exist as a nation on this planet. And I am so impressed with them. They deserve the help, every bit that they get. And your point about us not being invited in there, going in there and training these so-called moderate terrorists? Come on. Who the hell are we? We are Satan's implement. We are evil. We are training killers. I don't know where else to go with it, but here's
what I believe is that anyone that supports the Republicans and the Democrats are accomplices to murder and thievery.
Thank you.
How much more money do they have to steal from us in the names of too big to fails, tax loans, guarantees, all of these dirty deals that they do? And how many more people do they have to murder around the world before you call a murderer and a thief a thief? So anyone to me that claims to be a Republican or a Democrat is an accomplice to murder. And in Libya, let us not forget the 3 witches of Washington that pushed for that.
Oh, yeah.
Hillary Clinton, Samantha Powers, and Susan Rice.
Yep. I call her, you call her Hitlery, I call her Hillary. She's from hell. From hell, that woman. She makes Hitler look civilized. I just think the woman, on a smaller scale, however, her ethics, her morals, her leadership, her alleged standing in the world community, laughable, morbid, disgusting, despicable. I loathe that woman.